up on what kind of leadership one had there. And I thought I'd just go hide in California and write my books, which I've done. Now, I have another book coming out, in October, I told you. It's called the New Testament Code. The Cup of the Lord, Damascus Covenant, and the Blood of Christ. It's 1,000 pages, and it's going to get out before my footnotes are out, but that's why I'm going to put the footnotes online, because otherwise I would never get the book out. So don't tell anyone that, but that's what I'm going to do. Too many footnotes. The reader wouldn't want to read all those footnotes anyway. So. But anyway, getting back to, it'll be out in Barnes and Noble, I understand. So, you can even Google it up, and they're selling it. They're selling 2 versions of it. They're selling it for a year and a half, but they don't even realize that it's not 2 books, it's only one. In any case, I left long ago for those reasons that I just told you, and came out and hid in California. And I'm happy. California's a nice place, but the thing I just told you about earlier does worry me about California at the present time. In any case, to go back to Bar Kokhba, the outcome of that uprising was terrible, and they were eradicated and forbidden to enter Jerusalem again ever, except once a year on the 9th of Ab, the day Jerusalem fell in the first uprising, and to wail, or so-called, or cry at the Wailing Wall, or whatever you want to call it, the Western Wall, depending on what you... That's where that whole tradition of the wailing at the Western Wall comes from. The Romans, after the defeat in the second uprising, not the first, forbade them to go into Jerusalem ever again, except on that one day to bewail their fate. It was a very cruel sort of a punishment, you want to call it that, to show the Romans were very cruel, and anyone who idealizes Rome, really ought to go out and, the way they treated subject peoples was really terrifying, as far as wiping out all Arab peoples, the way they treated Gaul and other places, Britain and so on. I mean, the places that they stamped on have never been the same since. They've left their mark, absolutely, and it still goes to the modern world. So the Romans were very cruel in many ways. That's why I don't like Mel Gibson's movie, because it's just not an accurate picture. But anyway, let's forget that. The fate of the Jews was more or less sealed, and that's why it's so important to understand that Wailing Wall. And we've heard about the Wailing Wall. It's because they were supposed to go there and cry once a year, bemoan their fate. There are even these coins that the Romans issued that show a Jewish captive. I have them in my book, called Judaic captive coins. And it'll show a Jewish woman crying under a palm tree. That's where the weeping comes from. Palm tree was symbolizing Israel, and on the other side it was a picture of Vespasian, the conquering general, soon-to-be emperor of Rome. I have it in my book. You'll see a picture of that book. But, they were called Judaic captive coins, and they were issued in the name of Vespasian and his son Titus. The Arch of Titus, which is the arch that everyone copies, Constantine, Napoleon, everyone else. It's got scenes of the Jewish captives coming to Rome, carrying, if you don't know, the candelabra. How many have seen the pictures from that arch where they're carrying this is the captives that are then going to be slaughtered in the arena and so on. It's not just Christians. In fact, I don't think Christians were yet being dealt with in that way. Jewish captives were being treated that way. Later Christian martyrs, but not in the first century, I don't think. It was mostly these prisoners that they were taking in these wars, and then feeding them to the gladiatorial, other things that they were doing. They would also execute lots of people at the Triumph just for fun, like when they had the Gallic War and they took Vercingetorix then Caesar would have him in chains, and then they would, I forget how they did it to him, but they kept him in chains for a year or two, and then when the triumph was held, they disembodied him or something, you know, just horrific type of thing to show the triumph of Rome. That's what they did to captives. You didn't surrender quick enough. They wiped out whole cities and things like that. Which is why, I mean, I'm not too excited about the New Testament portrait of the Sea of Galilee, because I read my Josephus, and I know that the Romans slaughtered everyone around the Sea of Galilee because they resisted. And the sea ran red with the blood, Josephus says, of the people. And then they took captives, everybody around the Sea of Galilee from all those towns. That's why the New Testament writers know those towns. They took the captives and they used them to build the Corinth Canal, and they gave some to the Roman general, some to the Herodian king, and the old people and the infants they killed. They slaughtered them all. And the rest were put in slavery. But, you know, didn't make the Hollywood movies. So, you know, the retributions things were huge. Anyway, I'm way ahead of myself. Just want to work up to that point. Why is that important? Because that's going to set the tone for the treatment of Jews in Europe for the next 1,500, 1,000, almost 2,000 years. And that's why it's important to know that. You follow me? I mean, I don't think you just pick the Jewish fate up right out of, you know, oh, look at the Jews in 1700. Well, how did they get to that position in 1700? We have to have some inkling on how that happened. So let's go back again. So David is around 1000 BC, 1050, Solomon 950. The first temple was built in that period in Jerusalem. So, you know, all right, we had, most of you know the Abraham stories, the Moses, Exodus story. You know, you've seen Cecil B. DeMille and everybody, you know, all those stories, whether accurate or not, I can't say. And Joshua, most people have heard about, the conquest and so on. So I don't have to cover that, and I'm not sure how historical it all is. You know, it's literary after all. But from David on, it's pretty historical. And we've even found some archaeological evidence with David's name on it, so I think it's we can pretty much rely on that. After Solomon, they weren't strong enough to hold the kingdom together. There was always the northern tribes and southern tribes. The northern tribes broke away and started their own state in the north because they didn't like the Davidic kingship. Well, what tribe did David come from? Because of Jesus is supposed to be the same tribe. What Judah. So that's where the word Jew comes from. Judah. But that wasn't the whole group. That was only one tribe.